good to see you.
We started, but not started officially yet. So
so
just ask
take your time. I just wanted to connect to make sure that it's working, and I will just wait for my turn.
Oh, you're so nice. Okay.
All right.
I'll start to introduce people in about 2 minutes. Students are usually coming at very last moment. So I'll use 15 minutes up to four to make introductions to all three of you. And after that, we are going to start. Okay? These are students who are just joining to us. Okay, I need some more mails to send with link. And danas će nam se priključiti i Dimitrije Tadić. Okay. Ivan Mileković, admit. Katržina, do you mind if we speak a little bit on Serbian for the very beginning, and after that we can switch to English? I'll take that as a yes. Oh, view all. Admit. Oh my God. Admit all. Dakle, pošto sam pitao Katržinu da li možemo da obavimo nekoliko reči na srpskom, ona nije ništa odgovorila, pa ćemo to shvatiti kao da, kako bismo drugačije shvatili ćutanje. Sofija Krstić, admit. Napravit ćemo samo kratak uvod na srpskom, a onda ćemo se prebaciti na engleski, pošto će sva tri današnja predavanja biti na engleskom, kako bi i Katržina mogla da bude u, što bi se reklo, u saglasju sa onim što govorimo. Studentima nije bilo lako, juče su radili drugi termin kolokvijuma iz heritologije. To sad Mina, Ana i Dorotea znaju kako to izgleda i koje je to zlopaćenje i kako to nije nimalo lako i jednostavno. I zahteva mnogo više razmišljanja nego znanje. Evo Mina klima glavom, vidim je. Danas imamo nastavak ovih predavanja koja će za studente druge godine, dakle za studente heritologije, biti veoma, bit će važna iz prostog razloga što će otvoriti pitanja za neke njihove projekte, finalne završne projekte iz predmeta heritologija, što opet studentkinje trećeg godina koje se vide na ekranu znaju kako izgleda. Evo i Mašu. Marijana Nedeljković, Dunja Belić, Admit All, Anđa Sinđelić. Nisam čuo, Ana, izvini.
Ne možemo, kažemo da smo četvrta.
Dobro, četvrta, što sam pogrešio? Dobro. Današnja predavanja će nam održati Kristina Sedlarević, za koju ja mislim da još uvijek čekamo. Ne znam da nisam onom masovnom pristupu odobrio i Kristini. Verovatno nisam. Dakle, Kristina Sedlarević, koja je trenutno na master studijama iz jednog čudnog interdisciplinarnog pristupa, ali u Frankfurtu, i koja će nam ovdje više pričati o praksi koju je imala u Srbiji, a koja je bila rađena na predmetu heritološke tehnologije, a koja je kasnije rezultirala izložbom u galeriji ili prostoru ili kako hoćete centru Remont i koja je se zvala Participativna umetnost, i to je veoma zanimljiv pristup tome kako i na koji način zapravo i sama umetnost, a ne samo muzejske prakse ili heritologija mogu biti participativne. Na nju će se nadovezati Mira Luković, koja će nam nastaviti u istoj temi, što bi se reklo, a koja će pričati o tome kako je Muzej Jugoslavije u svojoj posljednjoj novonagrađenoj izložbi, koja nosi naziv Devedesete, rečnik, migracija, zapravo inkorporirala ne samo umetničke prakse i umetnike u to kako je izložba na koncu ili na kraju izgledala, već i kako je u saradnji sa različitim aktivističkim grupama, društvenim pokretima i svima onima koji nazivamo realni civilni sektor, ne kako se zovu ove nove organizacije koje osniva vlada, Gudl, nije ni važno, koje zapravo realno i stvarno svojim aktivnostima utiču na to kako izgleda scena i kako izgleda muzejska delatnost kada o njoj govorimo na jedan demokratizovan način. Ovako ja prekidam sa ovim mojim, zato što neprekidno klikćemo admit. Dakle, posle Kristine i Mire Luković imamo čast da nam kratko napravi pregled svojih praksi i onoga što trenutno radi Katržina Jagodinska sa Univerziteta Jagelonijan, koja je zapravo dugo vremena zaprokul istraživanja. Da li da pustimo zaprokul ili ne? Ajde. Koja je zapravo dugi niz godina bila podeljena ličnost gotovo kao i ja, odnosno funkcionisala između sfere prakse i nauke. Sada je definitivno se opredelila samo za nauku i od ove godine definitivno i jedino predaje na Univerzitetu Jagelonijan, a pre toga je radila u jednom veoma značajnom da kažem, Centru za kulturu i umetnost, a to je Međunarodni kulturni centar u Krakovu, koji je zaista funkcionisao na prilično međunarodnim osnovama i imao veliki broj izložbi koje su zapravo međunarodna produkcija. Danas će nam se nešto posle 4 pridružiti i Dimitrije Tadić, koji će najpre biti slušalac, a potom će biti, nadam se da će nam, ako ništa drugo, barem nekim pitanjima, sugerisati kako i šta možemo da se zabavljamo, mada će to biti predmet mnogo više one neke konferencije koju sam studentima pominjao 11. januara, koja za njih nije obavezna, ali ukoliko žele mogu da joj prisustvuju, a to je konferencija IKOM-a i Deska Kreativna Evropa, koja se tiče upravo toga. Odnosa muzeja i savremenosti kroz različite vrste participacije, umetničkog stvaralaštva, participativnih modela i tako dalje. Imamo još 7 minuta do 4, ja mislim da sam otprilike napravio lep pregled, šta to je ono kad sam sebe čovjek hvali, ko će učestvovati, ali najbolje će se pohvaliti oni sami kada budu prezentovali. Vidjeli smo prošle nedelje da smo imali otprilike i fino i klasično strukturirane prezentacije, ali one prezentacije koje su bile što bi se reklo potpuno iz prirode ili više stvar toka misli u određenom pravcu nego što su stvarno predstavljale nekakvu vizuelnu nekakav vizualno prezentovanje sopstvenog rada. Pre nego što počnem, zanima me da li neko od studenta ima neko pitanje. Kad kažem studenta, ne mislim na ove završene godine i na studente koji rade praksu, nego mislim na studente druge godine heritologije. Slobodno, ako je nekome glupo da se oglašava na bilo koji način, mada smo vidjeli prošli put da je bilo super, može i u chatu. Dakle, chat će biti otvoren sve vreme, tako da kome god nije milo da mu se čuje glas, slobodno neka napiše svoje pitanje u chatu. Kao što već svi, ja mislim, dobro znamo, nema glupih pitanja i nema, kako bih rekao, glupo formulisanih pitanja. Sve je dozvoljeno i apsolutno sve može da bude što bi se rekao, legitimno nejasno. Kada će stići rezultati popravnog kolokvijuma? Kada stignem da pregledam?
Mislim da je to ono pogrešno pitanje.
Ko je to rekao? Anđela Petrović, je li?
Da.
Ne, Anđela, bit će, mada tebe to direktno ne dotiče, ne znam, ti nisi radila, glupo je da popravljaš maksimalan broj bodova. Rezultati će biti, ja ovako, mislim već u subotu, zato što sutra i prekosutra malo gužva, ali nadam da ću stići da pregledam. To je pitao i veoma mi je drago zbog toga, što bi se rekla to, Sofija, da to pregrmimo, jeli, odmah na početku. Sofija, važi, hvala. Ja ću se potruditi, ja sam već poskidao sve vaše odgovore, ima ih 20 i nešto, 24, 25. Drago mi je da su se prijavljivali i oni koji su želeli da poprave, dakle ništa ne mogu da izgube. Pitanja su bila malo više sintetička na ovom kolokvijumu i čini mi se onako po brzom pregledu svih do sada da ste se snašli, dakle da nije bilo nekih većih problema. Tako da sutra je malo gusto, u petak je katastrofa dan, a onda u subotu ja mislim da ćemo već imati rezultate, a onda se dogovaramo za ovaj termin koji sam vam poslao u mailu da vidimo kada i kako ćemo se organizovati za konsultacije za ovaj posljednji zadatak i za završni projekat. Eto, što se mene tiče, čekamo još, samo da izlistam, da vidim da nam Kristina Sedlarević već nije tu negde. Ja koliko vidim nije. Tu nam je samo Katržina, Kristina i Mira Luković. Još nam se nisu priključili, ali nadam se da će uskoro. Što bi se reklo, imaju još 3 minuta. Hoće li neki student da da kratak chat opis, da li mu je kolokvijum bio u redu ili je bilo suviše teško? Velečasni Stojan, dobrodošao, velečasni. To je Stefan, ja mislim, da je pravo ime Stefan. Dobro.
Pa nije bilo teško.
Anđela, nije fair da ti to govoriš. Vidim da blinka tvoje ime.
Dobro, evo, čekajte da upalim kameru.
Ajde, da te vidimo.
Samo da vidim da li hoće da radi. I eto,
Hoće. Anđela.
Meni je prvi koliko bio ok, ali su mi ona druga pitanja, to jest pitanja koje ste poslali za popravljanje možda malo teže. Za nijansu. Baš smo razmišljali i kolege koji nisu popravljali, prvi su razmišljali na ta pitanja. Mislim, ok su i jedna i druga, ali da, evo i Bojan kaže.
Ja sam se malo jel to?
Da.
Da, ja sad ne znam šta je Bojan pisao, video sam da je uradio sva 3, da je treći, evo nam je Mira Luković, super. Miro, dobrodošla. Ja sam se malo znao u pisanju jednog od odgovora i onda sam na preostala 2 baš zbrzao. Pa dobro, to se dešava. Kako bih vam rekao, nije ocena suštinski najbitnija stvar. Najbitnija stvar je da pokažete da ste radili i da ste nekako promiješali stvari. Ono što mi se nije dopalo u prethodnom kolokvijumu je bilo to što je Stranski zapravo izazvao ogromno prepisivačku školu onog čuvenog pasusa Milanovog i ja sam na početku i komentarisao taj pasus, onda sam odustao i samo sam svima u komentaru stavljao pasus, jer Stranski se na veliku žalost proteže kroz čitavu knjigu. Dakle, on nije, iako djeluje kao generičko pitanje ili pitanje koje je veoma lako odgovoriti, on suštinski nije moguće dati jednostavan i faktografski odgovor. Dakle, zahteva nekakvo podrazumevanje, pogotovo u onom drugom delu knjige. Ne nekakvo podrazumevanje, nego nekakvo sintetičko znanje. Ali generalno, kako vam rekao, nije to... Generalno utisak je ono što sam napisao u mailu da nisam baš prezadovoljan, u stvari nije baš tako. To sam ja bio malo stroži, ne bih ih stimulisao za drugi termin, ali u suštini to nije bilo uopšte loše. I napisati za pola sata, za sat i po ili pola sata po odgovoru nije baš jednostavna stvar. Tako da, opušteno, imat ćemo još prilike da radimo. Mislim, ako se nešto nije jasno na hevitologiji, razvijat ćemo sljedeće godine na muzeologiji, pa i dalje. Tako da, radit ćemo. Bitno je da ovo što bih rekao, formalne stvari ispunimo. Jeli, položili ste kolokvijum, završili završni rad, ne znam i tako, da imate ispunili normu. Odštampali 1000 primjeraka, nečega i tako. Mnogo je važnije da uđemo u jedan sistem grupno, nego da sada sve ocene budu kako treba. Evo, to ću vam potvrditi. Dorotea, pričaš, a ne čujemo te. Da, sad možeš da kukaš koliko god hoćeš. Dobro, ja bih da pozdravimo Miru Luković. Miro, da li možeš da upališ kameru da te i vidimo?
Mada sam uspela sad.
Evo nam ga i Dimitrije Tadić se prijavljuje. Dimitrije, dobrodošao. Lazar Marković, također naša zvezda prvog kolokvijuma. Evo nam je Mira Luković. Miro, tu su nam Katržina i ti, ali iz nekog čudnog razloga nema nam Kristine koja je Frankfurt based, tako da možda kod nje... Evo nam je Kristina. Kristina, evo nam ga i Dimitrije. Ćao Dimitrije. Moraš da upališ mikrofon ako hoćeš da te čujemo. Dole, levo. Upalio si.
Čao.
Ćao. Gledate 50 ljudi, samo da znaš, tako da budi veoma pažljiv šta ćeš da radiš. Tu su nam naši predavači danas. Ja ću zamoliti, da ne bismo gubili vreme, ja ću zamoliti da... Ovako, prvo ću reći, sve sam vas već predstavio dok se niste uključili na srpskom. Kristinu, Miru i Katržinu. Pošto smo se dogovorili danas zbog Katržine da govorimo na engleskom, da bi žena otprilike znala šta radimo i kako radimo, zamolit ću sve da se isključe, izuzev Kristine Sedlarević, koja će nam se prva obratiti. Kristina, već sam te predstavio, nemam šta novo da kažem, izuzev da si... Okay, I'll switch to English now because of Katržina. So we got a Kristina now for the very first lecture, and I said almost everything that I could about her professional life. And the thing that I missed to say is that you are alone in solitude in Frankfurt, alone. And now this is the moment when you have to remember what you have been doing in space and gallery. Correct me if I'm wrong. Remont, which is one of the few or very few very important spaces in Belgrade to discuss and talk about the contemporary art. And furthermore, it is the place where you have achieved to produce the exhibition, which is called Participatory Art. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or whatever, you can say whatever you want in next half of hour. And the screen is completely yours, not to say the floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank you for inviting me today. I hope that this presentation can relate in some way to your interest, and I hope that you can all hear me and that there is no technical difficulties. I will try now to present my screen. Just a second. So I prepared some of the slides from the exhibition. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
I can see like what are you seeing, so I hope that the screen is all right. Sorry. So as a part of this presentation, I intend to discuss my own experience during the organization of the group exhibition, Phenomenon of Participation in Art, which took place in January last year in the Gallery Remont in Belgrade, and included works of young contemporary artists who dealt in some way with the current problems of audience participation. In the introductory part of the presentation, I will, in short, consider one of the possible conceptions for the exhibition projects and as it is developed in the practice of Harald Zeman, which I found relevant for the contextualization of this exhibition and used as a base of my own approach. In the segments that will follow, I will address the exhibition making process, the conceptualization of the theme, problems and challenges that occurred, also the process of finding and establishing the communication with artists and the results to which we all came at the end. First, I want to examine one of the most prominent exhibitions that influenced the way in which I try to frame this project, and that is the exhibition When Attitudes Become Form, curated by Harald Zeman. Maybe you discussed about this exhibition during your course. Harald Zeman was a Swiss curator, artist, and also art historian. He had an influential curatorial career, and he was a director of Kunsthalle Bern. He was also a director at Document and Castle, and he is now remembered mostly as a founder of the independent or freelancer curatorial profession. I don't know how it is addressed properly in English. I think independent curator. And yeah, so this exhibition was a milestone exhibition for post-minimalist academic American artists in 1969, I think. And the show became a dialogue and resembled more of a stage for production rather than an ordinary exhibition based on the principles of representation. So one of the most influential things that came after this exhibition was the fact that the exhibition led not only to the innovations in the openness of the exhibition context, but also to the theoretical foundations for evaluation of conceptual art forms. And in this sense, exhibition When Attitudes Become Form brought forward the premise that an exhibition can be a legitimate form of academic and theoretical research of artistic phenomena, which is a model that is familiar to us art history students, but mainly as a part of academic process. So this research model that analyzed contemporary art themes and problems through art exhibitions, served as a starting point for my own exhibition. Another starting point was the artistic phenomenon of participation. And this phenomenon drew my attention primarily by its radicalization of traditional art frameworks. Participatory art is seen as a practice that grew exponentially since 1990s, and it tried to break the barriers between the public and the author in the traditional sense by involving specific social groups into the direct process of production of the artwork and construction of its meaning. I hope to analyze this phenomenon with the tools I acquired as an art history student, combined with the simultaneous process of getting to know contemporary art projects and underlying artistic intentions. So the organization process took about 4 months, I think. At the beginning of September, I tried to establish contacts with contemporary artists in Belgrade. I focused on the younger generations. And I found their artworks mainly on social media, although I visited some exhibitions. But to the larger part, they directed me to their colleagues who were dealing with similar themes. So I contacted every one of them and asked them to discuss the project with me and to see whether their works actually relate to the concept of participation. So in the following process, we discussed it about how can we present their artworks and whether they can maybe realize other works that they have in mind. So I was guided in that sense by the different line of thought than the Zeman presented. I remember that I read in the book of the curator Hans-Uli Hobrist that said, contrary to Zeman's view, that he didn't saw his curatorial role as a person who sets out to find some other or never heard of interpretations and meanings from the works, but to make unrealized projects happen. So despite the fact that I had no funds or ideas, how can we realize those projects? I asked every artist if they had some idea in mind about the participatory project which they would like to realize. And this resulted actually only in one artwork developed solely for the exhibition purposes from Kristina, which you will see later. A lot of discussions were really helpful for me. And I see this project not solely as an authorial, but in collaboration with every artist that on one hand suggested some works according to my explanation and set out to adjust or make new works for the exhibition that helped in the conceptualization of the exhibition in actual space, actually. And in the following slides, I will present in short artists and their works which were a part of the exhibition. So can you see the changing of the slides? I hope yes.
Yeah, we can.
Yes, we can.
Don't worry about
Okay,
it.
so this is
You're good.
thank you. This is a work titled Uncanny Mirror by Kristina. This work is presented in the form of documentation of the interactive installation that was constructed during the exhibition Prosthetic Pavilion, which took place actually a few days before the opening of my exhibition. And as a part of this work, the movement of the visitors along the steps of the gallery was recorded with a webcam placed at the top of the stairs and projected in a distorted image which continuously changed along with the visitors. With the use of the algorithm sets, SlitScan project and JavaScript, the artist located the movement of the visitors along the stairs. The photographs of the work were presented in the same steps and were focused on the question of the relation of the exhibition public with the work, where the visitors could directly influence the content of the work, although unconsciously. The second work, The second work is titled Woman Artist on the Balkans and was made by the artist Isidore Pejović-Blagojević. It is a textual generative manifesto, and it comprises of 20 texts of artists who try to answer the question, what is the role of women artists today? The text on the display comprised of the sentences taken from each of the 20 texts, which were generated as a holistic text by one algorithm made by the artist. And this work was included in the exhibition by its questioning of the idea of collective authorship over the work, although the idea of the exhibition remained in the hands of Isidore. The third artwork, titled Answers. The third artwork is, I said titled Answers, and it is essentially a poster with the sentences whose blank spaces were to be filled by audience in their heads, but there were also printed papers if someone wanted to write their own answer. I didn't saw any answers, but maybe somebody took it with them and then maybe finished the sentences. So these sentences concern the role of the artist today, whose place the audience has yet to determine. And Tamara's second work, which is titled The White Cube Gallery, is also in the form of a poster, but it has a different conception. The work, The White Cube Gallery, is a project developed during the semester exchange, during the exchange program in China. Tamara Spalajković, the artist who made this project, called the students to come to her room and exhibit their own works on each possible space beside the walls as an intervention against white cube paradigm, but also as a collective action. She also developed an online platform as a continuation of that work, and with the scanning of the QR code, the visitors can still access that platform. This is one of the problems, as you can see the numbers that are like displayed unevenly below the project. That was one of the problems of the exhibition, because actually the numbers were placed an hour before the opening. The next work considers the project of a different medium. It is an intervention in public space made by Milica Milaristić. The artist found an anonymous inscription in the book Terezin Sin, written by Vjeran Miladinović-Merlinka, and the text considers the impact that the writer made on that person. She took the inscription as a starting point for an intervention in open space, the open space, during which she glued the printed posters with the text on the streets and places in Belgrade related to Vjeran's life. This project presented a tendency to relate cities and personal histories, and to provoke a dialogue, a reminiscence, and memory of his figure in collective memory by the people that pass by and the people that actually live in those quarters of Belgrade, which were actually kind of a new targeted audience connected with the work outside of the institutional context. We are now coming to the next work, The Bed, made by the artist Andrea Dreminciani. This is an interactive installation, and essentially it is a bed covered by 9,000 rose petals, and that is a second version of the same artwork, which was first presented in the exhibition, I think in English, Girl Talks, and the Salon of Museum of Contemporary Art, which at that time looked like a cabin in which the visitors could enter, and their motion would trigger sensors that would lift the pendles up, and they would fly all around the visitors. Because of the technical difficulties and the transport costs, and the fact that during the transport this work had to be reassembled and then made again in the exhibition, it was really too difficult, and Andrea suggested to modify the work to make it as a bed. Also, having in mind the participatory quality of the exhibition, the open bed in the gallery space would call the visitors to sit down and throw the petals around them. So this was one of the favorite artworks, because the visitors could actually lay on the bed, but not also that. The petals were actually everywhere. I found them in the streets next to the exhibition, and the curator that at the time worked at Remont, Mira Luković, said that he even found petals in his home at Obrenovac. Okay, so we're coming to the next. This is an artwork titled Any Animal, Object or Thing, made by Nebojša Hikaru Yamasaki Vukilić. It is a paper object, a set of paper objects that should be interacted with. They form, they are made up of the artificial and animal forms, which are really ambiguous, and they have a mechanism and a marked thread which should be pulled. When it is pulled, the objects would change their appearance but still remain ambiguous. So this artwork contains kind of a contemplative participation and aligned with the interaction with the work. The next work, which dominated the exhibition space and it could be seen behind the previous one, is titled Protest. It is made by Luka Cvetković, and you can see that the protest did not take place in the exhibition, but it was a documentation from the performance. A work was made alongside Luka's friends, who were invited to make an imaginative performance along the streets of Belgrade. But they were carrying signs that Luka made, which exemplified the fact that the protest was not about a political thing, but it was essentially a protest against nothing. It had meaningless sentences written on the protest banners. Not banners, but tables, I don't know. So we can see that the protest is essentially the only performance and the only categorically participatory art that is engaged in this exhibition. The next artwork. So on the right side of the screen, you can see a projection with the sky and the beach alongside a postament with a banner. That is the work entitled Flight, made by Milica Milaristić, the same artist that made the intervention in the open space. This is a work of art that has a longer story behind it, and it included a long research project along with interviews and the complicated technical execution of the work. It is thought to serve as a monument to the death of the Daniel Morgan Lane, a pilot that died in an airplane crash at a place Outer Banks in the USA. The author of the work, after 1 year of the accident, Milica Milaristić tried to recreate the flight in which he actually tragically died. I mentioned the next artwork, this artwork at the beginning of the presentation. It is titled Surveillance Disco. It is made by Kristina, again, the artist who made Uncanny Mirror placed along the stairs. This is an interactive installation developed for the exhibition. With the help of the computer view and the webcam, the artist again played with the presence of the public, which constitutes and influences the work's content. This time, the visitors were not projected in a distorted manner, but their bodies and movements were outlined with dots and lines. That was, as I mentioned, our work developed for the exhibition. Both Mr. Karic and I broke this artwork a few times because Kristina added a computer mouse. When clicked, shows a different projection of the room. But when we clicked the mouse, just a window popped up and stayed there like for a long time. The next artwork is titled Intimacy. Oh, it is here on the left side of this slide. The Intimacy is interactive installation that consists of a sensor on which the visitor should place their hands and optic fibers, which after the sensor recognizes the hand, change colors in the accordance to the heart rhythm. This work was also very problematic during the exhibition organization because the sensor broke the day before the opening, and the place that actually made that kind of sensor was really far away from Belgrade, so it was actually established a few hours before the opening. And also another problem was the fact that this optical fibers had to be carried had to be placed on the ceiling of the gallery room. But the problem is that this is not a real ceiling, but a kind of a fake one, and we were not sure if it will be too heavy for the ceiling, but nothing happened at the end. That was the last work that was exhibited, and the setting up of the works were on the one side determined by the technical predispositions. The projections had to be in the dark room where the power chargers were, and the bed had to be placed in the center. The posters and Isidora's text work were grouped together, and Luca's poster and Nebojš's objects were on the remaining two walls. Next to the technical difficulties, which I have mentioned before, there were also tasks of painting of the walls, because when we placed, day before the opening, when we placed the blank white posters on the wall, we actually realized that the walls could be a little whiter, so we had to paint them again. And also, I forgot to mention that the additional event took place, that is the presentation and the screening of Deborah's movie, Society of the Spectacle. Deborah's work forms a point of reference for the discourse of participation, as it dovetails with the questions of spectacle, seen as a relation between people mediated through images, and calls for act of action, which calls for audience participation in turn. This work was significant for SE as a situation. Sorry, internet. I can't remember how should I pronounce it. Situacionistička internacionala. You will understand me. This presentation was supposed to be represented as a reflection of the historical lineage of the participatory art. And I will conclude this presentation with a return to the starting point. That is how this project relates to the specific art historical reading. while according to the current art historical classifications, the only work that is actually a participatory and as they are currently defined is Protest, made by Lovčević. But this exhibition had two goals in mind. The one was actually gathering not every, but a current set of views about the audience participation in the contemporary art scene in Belgrade. And the second goal was actually determining if the other works that were not, I would not say traditionally, but that are not included in the discourse of participation, such as interventions in the open space, including them also so that they could be discussed along the other works that have participative aspects, and bringing them together and seeing how do they make up a dialogue. So I hope that you found this project interesting. Thank you for your attention, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them after in the Q&A section. And
Thank you, Kristina. Sorry.
There is one more slide. I forgot to show it, but yeah, it shows how the exhibition looked from another point of view.
Scary. All of a sudden, the petals look like the blood. I've seen this exhibition. Thank you very much, Kristina. It is thank you for your honesty and for the clear and honest insight on what was working and what was not working. But the most important thing is the content, of course, and the idea. The students, if it is not their personal choice, we haven't been through the Harald Zeman and his influence on a curatorial scene. In contemporary art, it comes in a third and a fourth year of the studying on the heritology technologies, the course, that's the name of the course. And I've seen the exhibition, and all of a sudden what you presented looks completely different than what
to me also.
than what I saw. And I remember the work of Milica Ristić, who was doing it in the United States of America, and actually bringing to light that participation of people actually could create art or art piece all together with combining different techniques. But that's some other question. My not a question, but conclusion here would be that it's really nice and interesting that you try to combine two different or diverse things, and one is interactivity with interaction with art itself, which produce new forms of art, and the other thing is when people participate to create a piece of art. That's for me, this second option is more intimate and works a bit more effectively on me than those digital things that usually do not work in the gallery space. Not just in Belgrade, but wherever you go, it's usually very, very tricky. I said to students that they could ask and pose the questions in the chat. Dimitri, you look like frozen creature on a screen. If you got any questions.
The light is very bad, so I'm in here.
Okay. Let me meet. The people are still coming in. And Kristina, thank you very much. We shall leave the open for the very end if somebody's got some questions or something like that. I know for certain that we got people from different galleries here, which are also the students. And I thank you very honestly on that you managed to make some time over there in frozen and locked down Germany to talk to us, especially because your generation. Thank you, because your generation is much closer to the students than to the some other people like me, and which is really, really important to see some kind of perspective that they could engage themselves in some kind of activities like you did. Very similar situation is with Mira, who is somewhere here among these black. Here she is, excellent. Mira, I made all the announcements about you. I said that you are working in the museum up to the end of the year, and after that, oh, we are all going to cry about that, and we agreed on that. So I'm giving you the screen, and it's your talk about how people can contribute to some very difficult issues or topics in the museum. So good luck.
All right, thank you. To be honest, this was my last day of work, so I might fall back during this presentation at some point, but I'll try my best. Hello everyone. I have to say I somehow managed to survive this year without having any online conferences, meetings, and so on. So this is my first or second after our rehearsal the other day. So I have to say it's really weird saying hello to a bunch of windows. But also I'm, on the other hand, really glad that we can, at least in this form, be here together and talk about these things. And I will try to get over my anxiety of this format and adjust to it the best that I can. So hopefully I will manage to get at least some of my ideas across, I hope. So I don't know what you have already heard, probably already know that I will be talking about an exhibition called the 90s, the Glossary of Migrations, which was realized in the Museum of and by the Museum of Yugoslavia from March 2019 until, from December 2019 until March 2020. So we managed to put down the exhibition right before the apocalypse happened. And actually, I'm going to talk about one part of this exhibition, the one that I worked on. And I have to say in the beginning that the exhibition was huge in the sense that there was a lot of participants included, a lot of contributors of different sorts. It was a part of a bigger project. Its structure, its form was really complex. So I will have to sort of omit and skip over a lot of things today, because otherwise I would have to take like 5 hours of your life. And I'm sorry for that you won't have the whole context sort of, but if hopefully some of you get interested in this topic, you can find a lot of material online. You can find the whole online guided tour on the museum's YouTube channel, PDF catalog on its website, and so on. And of course, you can ask me and I'll try my best to give you any answers. But before I sort of go to my part, my focus, I will try to open up my presentation now. It's not much of a presentation, to be honest. It's actually, I will just run through some photos, because actually this sort of visual part is not really that important for what I'm going to be talking about today. It was, of course, extremely important for the exhibition, but so I will just put the photos on a slideshow so that you can get an idea of how the exhibition looked like. But actually what I'm going to be talking about is less about the visual part, less about the form of the exhibition, and more actually about let's say the people behind it in general, or the collaboration, the cooperation, and actually the relations that were created or recreated on the exhibition. But of course, first I will tell you something in general about the exhibition. So actually, as I said, it was a part of a larger European project called the New Mappings of Europe, which included 4 institutions from 4 countries. And we were all dealing with one global topic, and that was the topic of migrations, which is very global in itself, of course. But then each institution dealt with some local issues, local topics, some specific migrations, which were recognized as neurologic, as important to the local communities of these institutions. So in the case of the Museum of Yugoslavia, we tried to tackle the topic of the 1990s, so the massive migrations happening on the territory of Yugoslavia, or later ex-Yugoslav space, in the 1990s, which were, of course, one part of this bigger, wider picture of the complex political, social, cultural, and all the other circumstances of the processes of the dissolution of the socialist Yugoslavia in the last decade of the 20th century. So if I say migrations of the 90s in this context, what I mean is actually the massive movings of people, sometimes whole communities, which were happening either from one Yugoslav or ex-Yugoslav republic to the other, or inside of one republic, or people leaving the country to go to other parts of the world. Of course, that was all mostly due to political, economic reasons connected to the wars. And we also have some specific issues of migrations to ex-Yugoslav republics. For example, massive migrations of Chinese people coming to Serbia in this decade. But unfortunately, due to the conditions and the resources, different sort of resources that we could be working with, we had to sort of limit our scope. So we were mostly dealing with migrations to Serbia and from Serbia. But I do think that these were, in a way, representative of what was going on in the whole country or ex-country. Yeah, but the primary, as you can basically see in these photos, the primary focus of the exhibition was actually art. So the curators, Simona Gnjanović and Ana Panić, both art historians, they decided to approach this topic primarily from the point of view of art. So the artistic positions and the artistic practices either created during the 1990s or later on, but which somehow reflected and addressed different, again, political, social, cultural, other issues connected to these very complex, that's very mild of me to say, very painful and traumatic processes of migrations during the 90s in this part of the world. Yeah, so this art part, let's say, was primary, and that is the part that I'm not going to be talking about. But actually, throughout the process of the creation of the exhibition, it was realized that there are, except artists, art collectives and individuals, there are some other actors of these events which we thought had to be included in the exhibition somehow. And when I say that, I mean actually organizations and initiatives from the fields of activism and of the civil sector. Although due to, well, let's say it was some sort of a methodological decision to focus, to again sort of narrow our scope and to focus on those collectives which were either, or individuals which were either sort of actions which were started or initiated by artists, or those collectives which in their work and their practice, they include actually collaboration with contemporary artists. So now,
Mira,
Dan?
I'm sorry, we see just the folder with the images, but not the images going on, so...
Yeah, it's not, oh, sorry. I thought that the slide was going on. I'm not sure how to make it happen then. Let me just try. I'm sorry about that. You see, my anxiety was right to be there.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm just trying to look.
Excuse me.
Yeah, Maya?
Try checking which screen, what you're sharing on your screen exactly. When you click on share screen, you have different options. It might be due to that.
Yeah, let me just. Oh, no, I'm not presenting anything, right?
No.
Yeah, just give me a few minutes. All right, so while I try to do that, I'm maybe I will tell you that, what I'm going to be talking about next. Wait.
Just come down. Everything would be fine.
In general or with my presentation?
Well, I come from as general. With presentation, it is already fine. So just take your time to think of slideshow. I'm not quite sure how people do the slideshow.
Yeah, because the slideshow is happening on my screen, but when I try to do what someone tried to help me with, I can only see as options like the default or not. Maybe, I don't know if that will mess things up if I try the entire screen and then put slideshow on my
if you put entire screen, we should see multiplication of images, but you can try, of course.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I should. Okay, I'm gonna try, and then if it doesn't work, I'm sorry. Just for a sec. All right, do you see anything sensible now?
Oh, yes.
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 All right. Okay, so just to check, is the slideshow going on now?
Yes, it's working perfectly.
Thank you. All right.
Switching off my mic.
Sorry?
I said I'm switching off my mic.
Okay. All right. So now you will be able to see different parts of the exhibition, different art pieces, and including the parts of the exhibition that I will be talking about. But this is just so that you don't look at my face, but these nice photos. But basically, my focus will be on something that you can't really see that well from the form of the exhibition, as I said. So the participants that I, alongside with my colleagues, of course, worked with were the following. First, we have the group 484, or originally in Serbian, Grupa 484. So this is an NGO which was created, started after the so-called Oluja, the military action happened. So we had a huge number of refugees coming to Serbia. So from that moment on, they actually were dealing with different groups and individuals of refugees that were coming to Serbia, mostly from Croatia and Bosnia. And later on also what is officially called internally displaced persons. I hate this term, and it sort of expresses well this way of talking about these people. And these internally displaced persons were those that were forced to move out of Kosovo. So Grupa 484 is and was dedicated to giving different sorts of support and help to different sort of migrants, and most of all they focus on actually empowering them to sort of be their own support, let's say. The next organization was Association Kardan, Udruženje Kardan, Kultura sećanja, and this is an organization which is dedicated to nurturing in Serbia the memory, the remembrance of different aspects of the breakup of Yugoslavia. And on our exhibition, we focused on their work, which was connected to the topic of Serbian-Albanian relations in Kosovo, and also the issue of Bosnians in Sandžak. I'm sorry, I know this is a lot, but I just want to give you some sort of an overview of the type of things they are dealing with, so that you can understand or guess how difficult, how contested these topics are even nowadays. The next one is Vojvodina Civic Center, Vojvodinski Građanski Centar, and this is an organization which is dedicated to the research of mass violations of human rights on the territory of Vojvodina in the 1990s. So on the exhibition, we presented their work on the topic of the Croats that were banished from Vojvodina during the 90s. So they actually did a lot of interviews with victims of these crimes, the witnesses, and also activists that were trying to fight against it. And then we have the joint action Roof Over Our Heads, or in Serbian Združena akcija Krov nad glavom, which is an activist initiative which is dedicated to fighting to defend everyone's right to a home. So against all those that contribute to situations where people actually lose their houses, their apartments, and basically their roof over their head, which happens, unfortunately, a huge number of people, way more than we usually think, end up homeless due to different reasons. Poverty, the lack of money to pay your bills, which unfortunately a lot of people probably can sort of identify with, due to fraud, or like in this case, due to war. So among other people, they supported and even physically defended groups of refugees and, again, internally displaced people who, even after so many years, still fight for this basic human right of having a roof over their head. And in the case of this organization, we not only worked with them, but through them, we actually connected with specific communities. So we had this great opportunity to actually be in contact with these people who are probably in the most literal ways still living the consequences of the wars of the 90s and the migration of the 90s every day. So as you can see, all of these organizations and initiatives are dedicated in different ways, and at least in some parts of their work, to the topic of the migrations of the 90s, although in different ways. Some are focused more on, let's say, research or on targeting these topics, which are still very painful, very traumatic, but are in a way not either very rarely present in the public eye or completely invisible, or if they are present or popular topics, like, for example, let's say Oluja or Kosovo, whatever, they're seen still by many as a polygon for a lot of manipulations. So these organizations and people are dedicated to trying to present these topics in the public, but in a different way. Other of these groups are dedicated more to, let's say, some sort of a field work. So they work directly with people who have had this experience of migration. So either we're talking about humanitarian help, legal support, psychosocial support, or alarming the public that someone's rights were endangered or are still being endangered. And in some cases, of course, that means even directly physically defending these people and their rights from those that don't respect them. And in some cases, that tends to be the state, the authorities, the police, and so on. So this was especially tricky, I guess, both for us and for them to talk about these topics in a public institution, state institution too, and probably, at least for me, I guess, the biggest challenge. And of course, each of these collaborations was specific in its own way and has its own challenges, its own charms. We don't have the time, of course, to go into details about that now, but I will try to sort of just give you some info that I think works for all of these cases. So first, what was our point in how these collaborations should look like? I'd say for me, the key word there is to say sharing in a lot of senses. So I have to say that when especially the two curators, Simona and Anna, but all of us involved in the exhibition, when we read the literature about this topic, when we talked to people, when we were going through different researchers done on this topic, we mostly thought that it's all really problematic. Like, you have some sort of stereotypes, counting the victims by their nationalities, for example, and so on. And we felt like you always replicate stereotypes. And we tried to do it differently, but then you realize you also just somehow fall into this mental trap of doing the same, replicating the same narratives. And it was like, going in a vicious circle. that's how we felt a bit. So what the curators thought of is to try to, to think about it in different ways by finding new ways of talking about it, for starters. So they had an idea to create some sort of a new dictionary, a new glossary of migrations, and they wanted these new words for this story to be told, to not be chosen by them, but actually by the people who have this experience of migration or who have worked closely with the people with this experience. So what they did, actually, they asked all the participants to choose one term, one word or a syntagm or expression, whatever, that they think puts, is the essential thing for their experience with migration or their work, to sort of try to put all the essence into this one term, and then of course explain this term for this glossary that we created. So it was important that this narrative, if we are going to tell the story of the 90s migrations by this exhibition, that this story is not told only by the curators, but actually in collaboration with these people. Because we thought that, of course, if you're a curator, a highly educated person working in a public institution who has the access to public resources or whatever resources and so on, you have the power to tell the story. So the idea was, as I said, to share this power, to redistribute this power with or to these people whose story we are actually telling. Whether this was accomplished on this exhibition or any exhibition at all, that's of course I think still prone to or a topic for debate. But then why? So, or who did we want this power to be shared with? Those, I know that at least some of you have had the opportunity to see the exhibition. So those who have could have seen that some of the stories or terms presented on the exhibition were not really going along with each other. There were a lot of differences, even sometimes conflicts between the people that were included in the exhibition, or their visions of this past, or their visions of today's point of view when it comes to the topic of 90s migrations. And this was not, let's say, a surprise for us. The idea was to actually show these differences, because if we wanted to tell one story, a full cohesive story with its clear beginning and end and a one point about this topic, that I think would be a complete illusion. Because in reality, as you all know, anything concerning the 1990s, we still, we don't have, if there's any point where we can have it, definitely we still don't have some sort of a consensus about this very still recent and painful history. And the differences in the versions of history definitely exist outside of the museum. So we thought that the museum as a public space has that we have the responsibility to show these differences, actually to make these differences very visible in the museum. And if this battle of opinions or battle of values, let's say, is actually going on in reality in our society or societies, that it should be also visible in the museum. And that if the museum wants to be, let's say, relevant to its contemporaries or contemporary in itself, that we have to acknowledge this negotiations of past, negotiations of present and the future, and to find a way to actually actively, consciously, and conscientiously engage in it. I think I will maybe stop now, because I could go into details, but I don't think we have the time. I hope I gave you some sort of an overview about what we try to do. But of course, if I can make myself more clear during the questions or whatever, I will be happy to. And sorry once again for the technical issues. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mira. it was really awesome. I don't know how to express my gratitude for delivering all of these thoughts and ideas to us. We've met some of the ideas in terms of theoretical approach in heritology, because we've been speaking about the heritage studies and heritology after 1982, and especially speaking of authoritative heritage discourse and critical museology, critical heritology, or even radical museology, which was partly mentioned last week in the lectures. Also, I would like to say that you come also as the most critical institution towards all the narratives and discourses in Serbia. And it is really amazing that you achieve to how should I say, maintain that kind of stand in the institution, that it is not favorite to everybody in this community. I'd like to say the group 484 that already had exhibition in the Museum of African Art dealing with the global migrations and migrations of people hit by the recent events on the Middle East. And we had also the pleasure on the heritological technologies to have guests, you and Roof Over the Head, which are really informing this society about the very huge problem of people losing their homes and houses and apartments due to the very difficult economic situation they got into. And so thank you very much. This is how museum actually should work, and incorporate people into that sharing of the museum power and authority. We got one comment which is really interesting, and I leave it for the very end. The Blue House in Hrtkovci is the exhibition for its own, or on its own, and it's very interesting. It's a good discussion. It's for the good discussion for the very end. Once again, thank you very much. I ask you, as well as Kristina, to stay to the very end of up to the end of Katržina, which I am announcing now. If she hears me, she does. Well, it's, as I said, I'm very proud that Katržina is today with us because of the something is wrong, Katržina. Now it's better.
What's wrong?
Some noises. I hear like you are on the airport.
Really? That's not good. I can't hear anything apart from you.
Anybody else? Has anybody got a problem? If it's only me, then it's great. Then it's cool.
Oh, well, it sounded a bit like a subway, but it seems to have dulled out.
Subway, yeah.
Okay, so maybe I should disconnect and connect
No,
again.
No. It's excellent now. Now it's excellent.
Yeah, are you sure?
I am absolutely sure.
Okay, guys, thank you so much.
Wait, I want to say a few wonderful words about you before you start, please.
Okay.
I already introduced you in a Serbian, and I introduce you to my students very often, and all that we have been doing together in Poland usually, because you have never been to Serbia yet. But when we got you here, it's going to be for a very long time. So Katržina is, I mentioned, and I'm translating what I said in Serbian, somebody who was in practice and in science like schizophrenic, as I have been also, for many years, and you know the system from both sides, from theoretical one and from the practical one, and you know how difficult it is from both sides as well. So I've just mentioned to the students that you are actually doing my favorite word, atlas of participatory practices in the Polish museums. I also owe to the students to say that the Polish museums had the greatest development in Europe in the last decade, or at least, let's say, up to 2018, 19, 17. But from the very beginning of the 21st century up to the 2015, let's say like that, 2016, they were among the most developing cultural sector, I dare to say, in Europe, and especially in 2016, when many Polish museums were recognized as the best European museums on a different occasions and on different platforms. So you are starting something new, not so quite new in the world, but something that we discuss globally, and it is connected this time for the Poland, and this is the participation and how the participatory practices are working in the museum, regardless of what type of the museum it is, actually. So that's what I wanted to say in English, so you can hear that, and all our respect and all our gratitude that you are here with us today. And I'm giving the screen and everything on this, all you see, those black mirrors and black windows, as Mira said, to you. So the screen is yours, and thank you once again.
Thank you very much for the introduction and for bringing me to your forum. I have as well heard a lot about you guys, I mean students of yours. So I believe that a lot of that I will be showing you and telling you is already familiar, and perhaps you simply know other case studies, but you know the phenomenon. So first of all, thank you very much for making this all in English so that I can understand. And I would really like to come to Belgrade one day because I have only heard a lot, but I would like to visit now. So I really look forward to the pandemic to end and to be able to relocate pretty soon. But let's take advantage of technology. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to have this meeting and everything would be seized. We keep on working at our university as well. As Nicola said, I'm based at the university. I never worked in a museum. I worked in an institution that used to run a gallery. And actually, by some kind of coincidence, I did organize a partly participatory exhibition in 2011. I did I was a co-curator of 2 exhibitions in my life, and that was one of them. And now I am working on launching a new museum in Krakow, which I would very much like to be a participatory museum to put in practice things that I study. But today I would like to tell you not only about Atlas, which for unknown reasons still to me brings smile to the face of Dr. Nikola Krztowicz. I will tell you not only about the Atlas, I will tell you about my research, which is in the field of participatory museums, and Atlas is just one of the forms that I will be showing it to the audience. So now I will give you just a short introduction to what I do, and after some 5, maybe 6 minutes, I will put the presentation on so that you can see some case studies. In case there is any technical thing like you can't hear me, just tell me, so I will try to do something. I'm not a very technical person, but I will try. So starting with my research and the framework. So as you know, the museum was created as an institution of authority with the prime objective to guard exhibits, to produce and transmit knowledge where expertise was confined within museum walls. And since its beginnings in the period of Enlightenment, it enjoyed high degree of credibility, being a significant element of state politics in the area of culture, education, and social relations. In many instances, it's still like this today. And following the new museology thinking, museums of all types have begun to open up towards the public. And the current museum boom has been observed all over the world in the last, in at least since 1990s. And societal changes only prompted the intensified the turn towards museum visitors. As you know, there is you can name several museum booms. I believe the museum boom never stops because it's always flourishing and booming. And Poland is a very good example where it started really to flourish since the beginning of 21st century, and we are building and building and keep building all the time and making new museums or developing the already existing museums. Terms such as participation, engagement, co-production, and inclusion have become sort of buzzwords of museum practice at the turn of 21st century, and they're widely discussed by everybody and everywhere at all possible forums. So everybody in the museum world, especially in Poland, I believe, they are using the word participation, inclusion, and they are trying to do a lot about it. So visitors are invited to use museums as forums, as platforms for discussion. They may be encouraged to make some small choices at the exhibition or make some small inclusions to the exhibitions, like tick something, mark something, put a ball somewhere, or to contribute in a larger way to creation of the exhibition, bringing a story to the exhibition or an object to the exhibition. People can enter areas that until recently were available only to museum staff. So you can go basically to the storage rooms and see how they are organized. You can see the conservation parts and see how it works. So this used to be reserved only for the museum staff. People, meaning the public, can become consultants of the museum. They can advise the museum how to operate, how to reach certain age groups or special interest groups. So they form clubs, they form boards for museums. And the audience may also perform duties of museum staff, becoming, for instance, volunteers. And volunteers can be very independent. They can run some programs also available to the public. So this is the context of what I am doing. And I selected as a case study of Polish museums. The reason is not only because it's close to me and it's available because of the language, which is also very important, but as Nicola Krzysztofić already said, the flourishment of museums after the year 2000 and most importantly after our accession to the EU in 2004 has been unprecedented. So a lot of resources, a lot of finances have been put into creation of the infrastructure which was non-existent before, which was very needed, and the type of the Museum of Contemporary Art, for instance, actually came to existence in Poland. Apart from Museum of Muzeum Sztuki in Łódź, which is the oldest of such museum in Poland, we didn't have the type of a Museum of Contemporary Art, so there was a lot of effort put into creation of those museums, but also historical museums, local history museums, all sorts of museums have been actually being created from scratch, many of them, and developed, including the museum buildings. My research is grounded in the paradigm of the post-museum, which was conceptualized by Elaine Cooper Greenhill, and then it was discussed by Janet Marstein. And the post-museum is a new step in the evolution of the museum institution after the modernist museum that was born in the 19th century and new museology discourse that was initiated in 1960s, 1970s. The term of the post-museum appeared in the 21st century to reflect new roles and responsibilities of museums in the ever-changing world. Now I'm quoting what Janet Marstein wrote about the post-museum. The post-museum seeks to share power with communities, encourages active participation in museum discourse, and redress social inequalities. And the concept of participatory museum, which, as I mentioned, is still very popular in Poland, introduced already in the beginning of the 20th century by John Cotton Dana, but popularized by Nina Simon, who is, I believe she inspired the whole community of museum educators in Poland. The participatory museum is part of the post-museum paradigm. Simon made a useful systematization of participatory practices regarding the amount of involvement on behalf of the public and museum staff, defining 4 models of public participation. As I'm sure you very well know, the contribution, collaboration, co-creation, and hosted, which differ in the depth and scope of relation. And on the basis of the participatory museum, a new concept of the activist museum was formulated. I'm very into this activist museum myself. And this is basically what I look at. I don't only look at the participatory museum as such, I look at the broader context of that's why the post-museum, I believe, reflects in a better way what I do than just the participatory practices. And my preliminary research led to the initial conclusion that participatory position of museums is more declarative than applied in practice. I did make this assumption like 2 years ago, I believe, and I have already examined and studied well, many, you will see in a moment, case studies, and I still believe that assumption is true. My project interrogates to what extent museums are capable to share their power with its audiences and how it affects their identity. Does it affect their identity basically at all? And the major assumption here is that various participatory, inclusive, engaging practices embraced by museums are illusory and they strengthen elitist character of museum. So this is my ground. This is what my research is about, and the research question I have in front of me is: to what extent are museums democratizing in terms of involving people in the decision-making processes, and to what extent it is an illusion obscuring the reinforcement of the authoritarian position originated in the modernist museum? So this is the. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Do you have the response to that question in one sentence?
Well, the research is still in progress, and I cannot generalize because there are museums that are grounded on the assumption that people are the essential component of a museum, and they are co-creating the content with the museum staff. There are, so saying that it's completely an illusion would be wrong. And museums are changing. That is also true, I believe, everywhere. But I still believe that that will be my probably conclusion, but discussed a little bit more deeply, that it's kind of an illusion to lure people, to make them think that museums are something a little bit different than they are. But let me show you some pictures, because I believe it's best to see some case studies. I hope I will manage right. Now I won't see you, but hopefully you will see my presentation. Let me know if you see the first slide.
We see it.
Okay, so and now you see that it changed, right? I need any voice from you guys. Okay, so this is the list of projects that are actually that will go to the Atlas of Museum Participation. I should say that my research is it will finally be a book, and it will be a part of a milestone, I hopefully, in my academic career, this book. But in the meantime, I'm doing the project which has the aim to popularize the museum, what museums do, and I'm making something I called the Atlas of Museum Participation, which is basically mapping participatory practices in museums in Poland to show what museums do in this field, to give voice to people who do it, and the aim is to show it to other museums, to other people, so that they can get inspired, they can see what their colleagues are doing. And also the thing is that many of those programs and projects simply disappear once they are organized. When there is an exhibition, there is a catalog that is made, and some of those practices are exhibitions, so that's fine. That is somehow recorded. But when it's the educational program or some other public program, that it's organized and simply everybody moves on, so it becomes unrecorded. After some time, people may forget it, and I believe that this kind of project may simply let it last longer, at least. So the Atlas will be a website, and it will be released after New Year. It's not ready yet, so I cannot show you this right now, and still it's in Polish only. But if you like, I will send you a link once it's released. And I did map around 50 projects to feed into the Atlas in the first round, because my idea is that it is aired. It is working as a website in January, and then it keeps developing. So I would like to add new programs, new projects. I believe that when people see it, some of people who made the participatory projects will simply let me know, and they would like to be included, and some further new ones will come out. So I would like to map them further so that it grows. But in the beginning, there will be around 50 projects and around 30 museums represented. And you have here on the screen most of them, not all of them, but most of them. Those are the ones that are already covered, but not all the knowledge, not all the things are processed, but it's more or less ready right now. And in the box on the right, you see the types of projects that what they represent. So they may be the exhibition, the participatory exhibition, guided tours when people are invited to become guides for the museum or for museum-related projects. People being volunteers for a museum. Project is a very broad term, and actually everything that is not under any other button would be a project. meaning that when there is a group of people advising the museum of museums. So here I mean that simply the whole museum is working as it is grounded on the participatory ideas. So this is just to show you what kind of museums I am looking at. And here briefly, because I don't have much time, and I would like to show you a variety of museums. I decided to select various types of museums so that you don't look only at art museums, for instance, but at various types. So Józef Piłsudski Museum in Sulejówek is, I would say, a kind of a forerunner in the area of participation in museum. They are the only museum in Poland, at least so far, that has the department for local programs as a part of the museum structure. So the museum was opened this year, and unfortunately during the pandemic, actually, the formal opening of the museum building occurred. But the museum has been operating, it's been existing for 10 years. They were working in a temporary location in Warsaw, because Sulejówek is a neighboring townhood of Warsaw. But that was just the office building, and they were always working on site, somewhere on site in Sulejówek or other places where connected to Józef Piłsudski. So they started to build connections, to build relations with the local community in Sulejówek already 10 years ago. And simply now they are all in a new building on site, and they simply continue what they did. So now their staff is growing, they have more people dealing with local community. Here you have a selection of projects that they do. Their website now is only in Polish, so that's why I did screens just to show you the website. And this is one of the projects. It says Sulejówek in the neighborhood, and it is the archive of the oral history. They're working on this archive with two other local institutions, local society and local library, gathering stories around places in Sulejówek. So they're mapping various places and the memory of those places. Museum of Podgórze in Krakow. It's also a historical museum, but it's a historical and local museum at the same time. It is a part of Museum of Krakow, which is very big, one of two biggest museums in Krakow. It's a branch, and this branch is devoted to a fragment of Krakow called Podgórze. This museum is very special because it grew out of local needs. There was a small body run by one person. It was called the House of Local History of Podgórze. There was very little room in one of the townhouses in the area, and it was a part of the cultural center in the area. And after 10 years' time, when people get used to it, people would come around just to stay, just to visit, just to talk, tell the stories of the district, bring some objects. So the lady who used to run it, she did collect, and the collection grew and grew and grew, and everything developed. She was organized a whole variety of events in this place. And after 10 years, the energy around the place was so big, and there was a clear need for making a new museum, that the decision was made to make a new branch of the Museum of Krakow in this building that you can see. So the ground for the museum was participatory. It was that people want this museum, and the museum already had some objects from the district, but they were also collecting them among inhabitants of the district, and they did to celebrate the collection of those objects. They did a special meeting for them. That was the first anniversary of the museum. They were working as guides for the public tour of the museum, and they were especially talking about the objects that they brought to the museum, and those objects are part of the permanent exhibition. There is also on the left-hand side, it's called the Deposit of Memory. It is a place. It is a place right next to the main entrance to the exhibition, where people can, whoever wants to present something, there is such a possibility to bring something to the museum, and then this person becomes a curator of the story. So there is a kind of a window which you can arrange as you like, and you can sort of rent your objects, your stories, your things to the museum for the duration of, depending on your wish, 2 weeks, a month, a little bit longer. So this is also how people's stories become the stories of the museum. And also the museum, they call themselves the participatory branch of the Museum of Krakow. They also look out. They see what's behind the museum wall. And as you can see, behind the museum wall, on the right-hand side, you can see the wall. This is the boundary of the museum. There is the empty space under the railway tracks. And what they did at the very beginning of their moving into this building was that they were thinking of making a park in there. And they did start cooperation with local associations in the district. There were 3 of them, and also local enthusiasts and inhabitants, everybody who wanted to contribute. And they saw that they have a joint aim, that they all would like to have a green area in the district. That is there's lots of traffic, there is big noise, and there are really no green area for residents. So actually everybody would benefit. The museum would have a nice place behind the wall where they could also go out with their program, and it would predominantly serve the residents. So the idea is that this park, which is actually, it's not yet happening, but it's very likely that it will happen. There were public consultations. The city authorities were involved. They did some actions to raise awareness among people, to attract attention of the media, and it's really likely that it will happen. And this park will be a kind of a cyclist and also simply walking route towards the city center and towards other very popular museums, including the Schindler's Factory, which is probably the top museum in Krakow regarding the attendance, which is a little bit more than 1 kilometer away from this museum. So thanks to this route, it will be even closer. Muzeum Sztuki in Łódź, the Museum of Art in Łódź, So Art Museum, they did start in 2008. They acquired a new building on the site of the former factory building, former textile factory building, right next, as it's part of a big shopping and entertainment mall in Wood. And they decided to, a few months after the opening, to contribute its main exhibition space to the public. So they did open empty room, and it's the room has 600 square meters, so it's quite big. They didn't organize the exhibition. They simply made available to everybody white walls and things that people may have used to work on those walls. And this place was open for 3 months, and the exhibition, the space grew. And the museum staff was observing what was happening in the room. They did not intervene, they did not censor. People were censoring themselves when something ugly appeared on the wall. So the museum staff only wanted to observe. They wanted to invite people to react to the space, to see what people need, to see how they will work with the space. And as you can see on the pictures, people, everything was painted, and it was overpainted and overpainted during duration of the exhibition. They also did participatory exhibitions. This is part of international project Museum as Toolbox that they did in cooperation with 3 other international partners. And there was a group of young people, youth, high school students mostly, working on the exhibition as the final aspect of this project. They were selecting works in the museum storage. They were doing everything that normally a curator of the exhibition does. That was in 2017, and it appeared that this group felt so connected to the exhibition that they didn't want to leave, they didn't want to stop. And in the end, the idea was that this group will work as a club. So they did initiate a club called MS17, because the branches of the museum are called MS. And they have been meeting ever since 2017, until basically the beginning of this year, because the pandemic actually interrupted their meetings. And they are every year working on some projects accompanying the exhibitions or some things that they simply like. I know it's already, I already used my half an hour, so I will just show you the pictures. I believe it will take no more than 2 minutes. This was the most debated and mediatized exhibition, participatory exhibition in Poland, I believe ever. It was called The Anything Goes, and it was organized in the National Museum in Warsaw. That was 2015-16, where a group of children aged 7 to 14 was invited to become curators of the big exhibition. They did give them the whole space for temporary exhibitions for the duration of 3 months. So it was the regular exhibition in one of the most prestigious museums in Poland. Children were divided into 7 groups because there are 7 rooms, and each group was curating, working on one museum room. They were going into the museum storages. They were working with museum specialists. They were writing information. They were recording audio guides. They were in the end they were hosting the press conference. So they did basically everything. Of course, it was all directed by the museum and done within the framework of the museum. Here we have pictures from the exhibition, and also the museum was very conscious about the scope, about the importance of what they did, and they did publish a kind of a catalog. This is the book on the right with pictures from the exhibition, but they also commissioned sociological research that was done throughout the whole time of preparation, and the preparation took almost a year. Those kids were meeting every Saturday for about 4 hours for the duration. Well, that was I think 9 months, because there was the holiday period in the middle. So that was very time-consuming for the children, for their parents, for the museum. Those were Saturdays. And they also did publish the Anything Goes Museum scholarly book as a result of the research. This is the Asia Pacific Museum in Warsaw, where they are collaborating with students of the Artistic Academy, where they invited them to come into dialogue with selected objects in their collection, and to somehow to make an artwork that is a response to the object that they found in the storages. Also, they did go into the storages of the museum, and in the exhibition there is the original artwork, the artwork made by a student. There is the museum card informing about the original objects, and there is a comment of the artist about anything they wanted to share, basically. Regarding participation, which is a kind of non-obvious thing, it's as you may know, Krakow is famous for nativity scenes, and the nativity scenes were inscribed into the intangible UNESCO list in 2018. And the Museum of Krakow is hosting the yearly exhibition. There's a contest that the museum is hosting every year, and afterwards there's the exhibition. And there is the whole community of those making the nativity scenes. And this is the exhibition that is traditionally every year, except this year on the main market square. And then it goes to the museum. There is the exhibition, and there is the community that is around the museum, that the museum actually is animating in a way. They were together making the application for inscription into the UNESCO list. Herbst Palace, briefly, another idea of a participatory exhibition when there was a group of curators who were making the exhibition of that was a little bit tricky, because they were, unlike normally curators would do, they were not selecting the artworks themselves. Their job was to make a narrative of the artworks that was selected for them by people, everyone who wanted to vote for their favorite or simply people were pointing artworks in the collection that they would like to see in the exhibition. And if those people taking part in this voting system wanted to justify why this artwork, then they would become part of kind of a contest for becoming a curator of this exhibition. So in the end, there was a group of 10, I suppose, curators who were working on the material that was selected for them. So they were making the narrative, they were arranging those paintings on the museum walls, making the catalog, and then doing the guided tours. So sorry for speaking too long. If there are any questions, I will be happy to answer. But I believe that this gives you some impression about the projects that are happening in Poland. I'm quite curious how similar they are to the projects in your country. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Katržina, very much. You are our guest of honor, so don't mind about the 5 or 10 minutes more.
You told me that before. I could have kept speaking.
No, it's just 5 to 7 minutes more. Actually, you are quite in time. Okay, minute over, it's not so important. Yeah, there are many similarities of what's going on in Serbia, in Poland, even though I know several of these museums that you mentioned while I was living in Poland. The nativity scene is absolutely my favorite. Oh my God, that's very colorful. Okay, thank you very much for presenting for what's going on. There are very intriguing examples. I hope there would be the chance to talk a little bit more about what is activism in the museum and how activist participation actually can bring something new or something worse to the museum work. Anyhow, thank you very much. I think we usually go into streaming what's going on in the museums in France, in UK, and I don't know, Italy or something like that. But usually what is much closer to us, like Croatia or Poland or Slovakia, usually remains under the radar. And thank you very much for at least bringing several museums to the spotlights, and several of them, as much as I know, and I know very good, as much as I remember, that it would be much better to say are really a world-class museums, not maybe in the space and the marketing tools, but really in the way they operate, especially in the Krakow, one of my favorite towns and cities in the world. Okay, that's where I stop with my emotionality and emotional connections to Krakow, and check if there are any questions, if students are not completely vanished our space. So please, if anybody's got any question, chat or live chat or video link or audio link or whatever you like and prefer. So the time and floor is for everybody, for Mira, Kristina, and Katržina. And I'll keep silent.
Yeah, one question.
Okay, Dimitri. Yeah, sorry. That's what I wanted to say, to introduce Dimitria to everybody. So Dimitria is the head of Creative Serbia in Belgrade. And thank you very much for joining us. And Dimitria is going to be our host on January 11 on the conference that we are going to organize, but sending you the details about that a little bit later. Dimitria, here you are.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether I put the video. Something is strange, technically speaking.
Everything is okay. We see you.
It's okay. Okay, you see me. So it's a very interesting and very important statement that the museums are that there is an illusion for the museums being participatory. So I guess we don't have the time to go much into deeper, but into that. But can you say what's your opinion? Well, what's the main reason for that? Is it some kind of conservatism, auto censorship? What it is about? And my second question is. Do museums in Poland address political questions, like we see what's going on now in Poland, unfortunately, with women's rights, about Catholic conservatism? Were there any project dealing with those harsh topics? And relating to that, my question for Mira Luković would be, I don't recall it, but were there any negative reactions to all those questions you raised by your exhibition you spoke about Kosovo, about Oluja, about very, again, harsh topics in Serbia. So were there any negative reactions? What were people saying about it? Thanks.
Thank you very much for the questions. I think the reasoning for being conservatism is for being conservatist for museums is a good one. I believe that museums always want to keep control, as much control as possible over the whole process of creating something, because they want to make sure what the result will be. They want to know what it's going to be, and starting with the very beginning with funding, when museums very often for some program activities, like for example for educational program or public program, they apply for grants, they apply for external money, and in the application procedure they must say very strictly what it's going to be, what the results will be, how it's going to be. And when I was interviewing people, because I was showing you the examples basically, but I didn't tell you what the atlas is. The atlas will include my conversations with people who are making those projects. And I did a lot of them so far. And people were telling me that when they were applying for money, it was very hard to include in the grant application something that was very uncertain. They were not even certain what the result would be, if it's gonna be successful, if they are actually if they actually manage to co-organize the exhibition with a bunch of kids, because who knows what's going to happen. And they try to be as general as possible for the purposes of the grant application, but it was, you know, sometimes they did get money, sometimes they didn't get the money. So that was one of the obstacles. And then I believe this is the matter of the trust of the management of the museum. Very few of the museums have directors who actually believe in this kind of managing the institution. That I believe this is something that they wouldn't say straightforward, but this kind of museum, I believe, in opinions of many, is not serious enough, a bit silly perhaps, confining decision-making process to people who are not trained as museologists, who don't have the knowledge that the museum staff have. So there are examples of that, and one of those would be the Ethnographic Museum in Krakow, where the whole concept is actually based on this, and the idea to work this way comes from the director to the bottom. So in other instances, it is the museum staff who needs to fight for permission to work this way. And once it's not part of the mission statement of the museum, it's not part of the philosophy, even though it's a participatory project, it doesn't make the museum participatory, because it's just the project. So the Józef Piłsudski Museum in Sulejówek is also perhaps not grounded, but this is very strong in their philosophy. The Polin Museum of the History of Polish Jews also has a very visible component of participatory practices, but from the perspective of the great, huge institution as such, that has a variety of aims when they are speaking to tourists, to school groups, to all sorts of groups, to individual visitors. Their local component when I say the neighborhoods, the community is marginalized. It's like this is the whole story and this is the participatory story. But it's there. It's very coherent and visible. When I spoke to the director 2 years ago, he told me that he understands that it's important, and that is why he keeps it on a minimum level, because he believes it needs to be there, but he can't afford to make it larger because of the staff limitations, for instance. So this is I believe, more or less the answer to your first question. And the second one, there are some examples when the museums were brave enough to incorporate, to make a stand regarding the political situation that has been in Poland. For instance, the museum in Gdańsk was initiated the program of collecting the transparents that people were holding on the streets when they were fighting for women's rights. There is a very nice sign of this whole movement. So this is one of the things that they wanted to document the situation around, and they wanted to have those in their collection. But it depends on who runs the museum and where does the funding come from. When frankly speaking, even though the management of the museum might be supportive for the movement, and in many cases, the current political party actually changed directors who are now in favor of the ruling of the government in Poland. Where it didn't happen, it would be very tricky for the position of directors if they spoke openly about the situation. In Gdańsk, the situation is actually that the government, the city, the mayor is from the opposite side than the government. So because the museum is run by the city, they could afford doing this. But in other places, it would have been tricky. In Krakow, for instance, where the mayor of Krakow is the independent, he doesn't belong to any party, so he is not in favor of the government, of course. But I can't recall any project in any Krakow museum that would actually be critical towards the current situation. So I would say those are very few, if a few is not too much to be commenting the situation. But the museums are commenting the pandemic, for instance, which is a kind of a safer topic for them. And they're making projects about collecting objects and stories of the pandemic lockdown.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can I add a word before Mira, please? I remember as an answer to your question that there are many of those who are manipulating the terms participation and co-creation in order to represent their museums as democratic ones, while they are actually serving the stereotypical political propaganda and ideology of somebody else. So there are methods of calling your museum participatory and inclusive and interactive, and that the exhibition that is co-created or program that is co-created, while it's just a facade or just a mask for completely different and opposite things. The same case scenario as in Serbia, actually. So what is here very important for Katržina and all of us to understand that it is not a declaration of something or something that is put in the plan or report how things were done, but actually, for me, in my opinion, the philosophy, how it is implemented, and is it honestly implemented? Because it doesn't serve for museums to get extra points to the government, when somebody thinks, they are a participatory museum, they should receive 10% more of the funding. No. It is actually very, very important thing for the identity statement, let's call it like that, of the institution itself. What I had in my mind was the National Museum in Krakow 2 or 3 years ago, also, which actually came out with the exhibition called Heritage, #Heritage, and hashtag was kind of a illusion that the people could participate in creating what is heritage, yet that hashtag was not respected in any kind. So the people were not actually participating in saying what is the Polish heritage, but it was done by the authority of 1 or 2 or 3 curators. So the idea was to represent how the museum is open and how use the all new tendencies and trends, and actually the result was quite opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to interrupt, but this was very important for me to say, that it's not only about the politics and governments, but how the profession see themselves or see itself in the domain of the public activity at all.
Mm-hmm.
Mira?
Yeah. All right. So Dimitri asked about the negative reactions. I have to say, not really. We did a lot of it. But that's maybe my answer, because we were prepared for hell. Like, we spent, I don't know how many hours, days, or weeks discussing between ourselves, like people working on the exhibition and in general people working in the museum, like, okay, what do we do if this happens? What do we do if this happens, if this sort of reaction? So we were really like preparing, I think, like never before, for to be truly like, to not only to be prepared, like what to say if we have a problem, but to really discuss between ourselves, okay, how do we feel about possible negative reactions? But at the end, and also there were a couple of Kosovo, of course, but a couple of topics that appeared on the exhibition that we thought would be like explosive. But then at the end, nothing special happened in that sense, or at least not that we know of. So nothing that sort of came to us, even when we asked our colleagues who work like security or people working on the entrance, which usually are the first ones to hear actually the negative comments of, I mean, like, random visitors, not some sort of critics or whatever. Nothing special happened. And first I thought, like, what a relief, okay. But then later on I was like, or does this actually mean we didn't really get to people outside of our bubble? I'm still not sure. But I think that somehow, this is like my completely personal opinion, not supported by any sort of research or whatever, but I feel that people who came to the exhibition, there was always something that people sort of identified with on some level, and that caused a huge emotional reaction for them. That's something that, for example, I didn't expect to happen on that level, that sort of emotional reactions, concerning your personal whatever, someone from your family who left the country or whatever. And it seemed for me like maybe that took a bit of focus over, going from one part of the exhibition and looking for problematic statements or something like that. And I also have to say, when I say that we prepared to defend, nothing that was on the exhibition, I mean, everything that was chosen there, we were ready to defend our opinion and our choice. But as I said, nothing that dramatic actually happened at the end.
Thank you very much.
This is, of course, the pressures on the museums and heritage from the ideological or political is one, but also there is a corporative influence, the influence of those who are giving the money, or the anti-ecological, which is investment interest against the museum. So it's not, it comes to the end that it's a political or ideology, but actually we can discuss so many different pressures that the museums cannot face with. And this is certainly the most interesting and the most intriguing issue now in the global museum community, how institutions could have strength to notice and to criticize the very problematic things that are going on in the society. Okay, some other questions. We got a questions in a chat from Mira, which is more a comment. As I said, the Blue House in the village of Hrtkovci is an exhibition for itself. I believe you know what does it mean.
Fortunately or unfortunately, I only saw the Blue House or Šešel's house in Hrtkovci from a car. And that's
Miro, you are losing. Not now.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Mira's gone. Also, Katržina's sake. Here you are. Can you repeat, please?
All right, yeah. Something is wrong, but I couldn't hear what you said, Nicola.
Can you repeat the answer to the question in chat?
Yeah, I said that I only saw it like once from a car, the Blue House, and in the media. So I'm not sure. Maybe a bit more of a question. I'm not sure what's.
Yeah, it's very weird too. Okay, I wanted to explain Katržina because there is also the far right-wing. The comment is that's currently a touristic destination. It is true. Yeah, there are different things that are touristic destinations. The point was for Katržina to explain that it is the house that one of the far radical right movement leader built his house in the Serbian village where the Croat people were living in order to demonstrate how dominant he is in his village. Yeah, and one of the students is right. It's unfortunately a touristic destination. There are, well, that's the kind of misuse of heritage anyway, and it goes along with the question of Dimitri. Some other questions?
Yeah, if I just may add, because that's also the place which was super problematic during the 90s, and one of actually his even officially biggest crimes is connected to exactly that town. And this is like completely now doesn't have to do much with mythology, but when it comes to him, and he was a huge topic, Šešelj was a huge topic, of course, when we were working on the exhibition, especially with Vojvođanski Građanski Centar, is the fact that, for example, the fact that this house is now like super funny and all over media, or has been like since 2 years ago, is the fact that a lot of things concerning Šešelj are like funny to people and interesting, and he has had like this media personality. And for me, it's really even hard to sort of comment on, like, we all laughed like, haha, Blue House, but actually, like, I have to say, it's not funny at all. Maybe this is a frustration left from working on the exhibition, but yeah. I'm sorry that we even lost this much time on talking about.
About that. Thank you very much. Some other questions could be posted like Lazar did in Serbian, or you could join and ask. I'll give you like 30 seconds for that. No, not to pose the question, but 30 seconds of silence are good. Something is hitting somewhere. From my point of view, everybody's gone, and I see just a bunch of black screens. It feels very weird now.
Come on, you can.
Okay, if there are no questions, of course, the space for questions and everything else is open. You got the time to think of that. What you think, whatever you want, and you can ask the questions only to me, and I'll resend the questions to the participants. If that would be all, I thank to Kristina and Katržina and Mira on a wonderful presentations and very interesting and intriguing topics to think of. Thanks to everybody else, to Dimitrije Tadić, who is here and followed us got introduced to the conference on 11th of January, to the students of heritology. Somebody wants to ask something? Oh. Okay, to the students of and to all the other people who were here and listen to us. I know it's not easy, as Katržina said. It's very difficult and tricky to talk to the windows and monitors and not got the feedback. So this is the moment when I can ask everybody to switch off from the transmission, except for just a few minutes of my 4 students and Katržina, Mira, and Kristina. And Dimitrije, sorry. So if there is no any questions, I claim the session is over. And thank you very much. And with my students of the 2nd grade, I'll be in touch on the mail, and on Monday, I presume to gather consultations on the seminar. Thank you very much. You can leave the meeting. That's the question.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye. Katržina, I have to ask, are they rebuilding your building or something like that in your?
No, there is no noise. It's perfectly quiet. I think it's something on the line.
It sounds like refurbishing the hallway of your building.
No, not at all.
Like somebody is knocking.
No.
Okay.
Those are knocks from the way of signal between Poland and Serbia.
Of those 2 tricky countries. Yeah, that's always the issue. Okay, girls, I wanted to say very, very big thanks to...
Thank you.
I think the students are overwhelmed last week. Sorry? I'm trying to... Okay, we're gonna... Angela Petrović is still here. You can stay, Marija Paunović, as much as I can see, so you can... This video is paused due to the problems. I don't know what's going on. I got some info. This video is paused about everybody, except Katržina. So Katržina, it's you and me and everybody's on pause.
No. I see that everybody else is moving, so I think it's...
Really?
Yeah.
I see.
It might be your
you.
transmission.
It is my transmission now. I don't know what's going on. Excellent. Now I see. Cool. You have been hiding. So, Kristina, Katržina, and Mira, thank you very much. For me, it was very inspiring, and I'm really glad to hear for some things again, and some things to remember of, and something is very new, and that is really good. the announcement to make, even though it's not official, and in the message I received from Mira, there is nothing to be said yet, even though I feel obligated to say that Mira is moving to Poland on our big, it's very unfortunate for Serbia, but the Poland is going to get a huge plus thanks to that fact.
Where are you going? Mira, where are you going?
Actually, I still don't have too much of definite plans. I just know I'm coming. We'll see. I have a couple of options.
Yes.
No, don't go. You know, the way to defend those Poles are savages. Stay in Serbia. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
of course you go.
Really.
Katržina, don't worry, she's running from savages.
Okay. I think now the translation really badly because I can see some other conversation in the background.
True. Okay, I just wanted to thank you, and we stay in touch, of course. I wish Mira happy travelings tomorrow to Croatia. I wish Katržina Merry Christmas, and to everybody else who's celebrating Christmas tomorrow. Tomorrow is the Christmas Eve, and after that is Christmas. But anyhow, whoever celebrating Christmas, I wish a very Merry Christmas and nice holidays, even though the pandemic is still hitting us all.
Very much.
So we wish you, Katržina, to enjoy with your family and try to be positive as much as you can in these very difficult circumstances. Kristina, enjoy Germany and enjoy if there is a Christmas.
I believe we lost Nicola.
I'm sorry, the audio paused at some point.
Nicola, we lost you basically.
I'm not sure if you're aware of that. Profesor, da li me čujete?
I turn back. We lost you. I know. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, because my connections was suddenly lost. I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I wished a Merry Christmas to everybody who's celebrating that, especially to Katržina. We know it's the day after tomorrow, and tomorrow night is a Christmas Eve. And we know it's a special occasion, so have a beautiful holiday.
Thank you very much. And now I will need to proceed to my kitchen to keep on cooking.
Goodbye. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas to you all. I know it's later, but still merry. And thank you very much for having me at your seminar. And it was very nice to meet you all.
You are always very, very welcome. And okay, that would be all. Whenever you want, whenever we invite you, you are always welcome. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ok, možemo da se presjećujemo na srpski. Miro, izvini, ja sam to morao da pomenem za Poljsku, zato što će, šta god ti treba u Poljskoj, potrudit ćemo se da ti učinimo taj tranzit prema kulturi Poljske što lakšim.
Jasna mi je strategija i hvala.
Da. Nije Katržina jedina, ima još puno ljudi koji su u Poljskoj veoma dobronamerni i veoma fini i, kako bih rekao, što bih rekao, svetski ljudi, znači Dimitrije šta pod time podrazumevam. Svetski ljudi, oni koji stvarno, kako bih rekao, se ne ograničavaju na svoje male okvire i male ideje i tako. Dakle, kao i svaka druga zemlja, takvih ljudi ima poprilično. I nadam se da će promjene biti na bolje. Eto.
Znam
Znam da Muzej Jugoslavije već plače, znam da ima puno ljudi koji su već poprilično nesrećni zbog tvog odlaska, ali kako bih rekao, nije to odlazak, to je samo novi početak, tako da želim ti stvarno...
Moraš da prekneš, sad ja sam plakala već 6 puta danas, pošto mi je stvarno poslednji dan.
Prekidam. Evo, kod Kristine nismo ni imali prilike ni da se oprostimo, ni da ispratimo za tu Nemačku, iako je već neka po redu koja nam odlazi za Nemačku i baš u Frankfurt, ali kako bih rekao, ja u svojoj ličnoj, ne u političkoj, nego u svojoj ličnoj nadi da ćete se svi jednog dana vratiti u mnogo bolju sredinu i, kako bih rekao, mnogo inspirativniju sredinu, ne znam kako bih to drugačije nazvao, ali naravno srećan put svima i ako bilo šta treba, bilo kakve preporuke, bilo šta, ja sam tu da vas podržim koliko god mogu. Eto.
Hvala.
Hvala vam što ste bili sa nama. Šta god da zatreba, slobodno pišite, ne ustručavajte se, u najgorem slučaju mogu da kažem ne mogu ništa da vam pomognem. Eto, to je the worst case scenario, što bi rekli. Ali tu nam je i Dimitrij, ako treba duple preporuke da pišemo i za kreativnu Evropu, i za IKOM, i za šta god treba, preporuke je najlakše pisati. Eto, to je tako. Za dobre ljude, Dimitrije, nema prepreka, je li tako?
I srećno, Mira.
Hvala puno.
I naravno, ovo što Nikola kaže, Nikola je dobronameran čovek, ali nije samo fora. Tako da slobodno, ako bilo šta i ja mogu, molim te, javi se.
Ima da vas zatrpam u papirima. Ok, ako žurite, Kristina i Miro, možete slobodno da se isključite. Hvala vam puno još jednom, stvarno ste bile super, divne i neposredne kao što smo i navikli. Miri želim srećan put, srećan Božić. Kristini želim srećan Božić koliko god je moguće da se provede u Frankfurtu. Nadam se da će se nešto makar malo otvoriti. Želim vam srećan rad, uspešnu novu godinu. I šta da vam kažem, eto, lepo je gde god da ste vas dve, tako da ne sumnjam da su oni koji vas dobijaju na dobitku.
Hvala, puno hvala svima i čujemo se i vidimo.
Hvala puno svima.
Ćao. Ćao. Tu nam je i Bojana, to mi je drago. Bojana, samo kaži to sam ja ili ne, neko napada iz Zavoda za proučavanje kulturnog razvitka.
Ne, to sam ja vas napadam ili ne znam, vojerišem, šta da radim?
Šta god, samo da si to ti, a ne kako vidim zapravo cool, pomislim neko tamo. Čudno vam nešto izgledaju ovi vaši predstavnici zadnjih dana, Bože sačuvaj, ste gledali ove videe, kao Hitler iz 38. Morao sam da primetim, vrsta nije.
Ljudi, bit će sutra još jedan, ko nije vidio Hitlera, moći će ponovo.
Dakle, totalno. Ok, sad smo među nama, bi se rekli, Dimitrije, video si kako nam izgleda ova mala školska varijanta. Za 11. januar smo planirali da to bude namenjeno i IKOM-u, to Bojana, super, da bude namenjeno i članovima IKOM-a i studentima, pošto će biti oni koji su sigurno zainteresovani, to već znam da ima zainteresovanih, i da skupimo ovih 6 žena koje su prezentovale i prošle nedelje i ove, ali u nekoj formi, na primjer, okruglog stola ili nekakvog, ajde kažem, nekakvih vrsta savjeta, bilo čega. Naravno, onda će nam se Mira također javiti iz Poljske, Katržina iz Poljske, Mira je u Frankfurtu i tako već imamo ono što bi se reklo već potpuno internacionalizovanu scenu, ali bih također voleo da ti članovima IKOM-a prezentuješ šta je kreativna Evropa, neki od njih već to i znaju, ali ne bi bilo zgoreg još jednom, a i ti kao novopečeni budući član IKOM-a, da vam predstavim novo, koje je